Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from 𝗚cie 𝗽𝗶𝘀. My name is 𝗩𝗶𝗫𝗀𝗛𝗎𝗫𝗓. These are our adventures in 𝗚ʰśrīmad-bhāgavatam. Today is our 89th session in the series we're calling Meeting Kurukshetra. It's our 42nd session of the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
42nd session of the 𝗏𝗏𝗏.
I'll go ahead and begin with some prayers. Narayanam namaskrityam nadamscha vinarottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayat vede ramayaneshchaiva purane bhadate tata adavante cha madhye cha hari sarvatra giyate mukam karoti vachalam bhangum langayate girim yat Patamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka name vandavela Padikori be chakadola Se chakadolanka paraye Manamo rahu nirantare Manamo nirantare rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Dharma projita kaita vota kadamoni matsanam satam Vedyam vastavamatta vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Kate Kim Vaparayishvara Sadhyo Hridyavarudhyate Chakati Bishu Shushu Vistakshanat Nigama Kalpataro Galitam Phalam Shukamukadamitra Jalasamyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvibavuka Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from 𝗚cie 𝗽𝗶𝘀. My name is 𝗚𝗏𝗫𝗀𝗛𝗎𝗃, and these are our adventures in 𝗚śrīmad-bhāgavatam. We're continuing with episode 89 of our series, Meeting Kurukshetra. And we're continuing with our discussion of the 47th chapter of the 10th canto. I want to invite anybody who's watching to please offer some comments or reflections on our Facebook page, or if you're watching on Zoom, you can also do that. Artaika saranam krishnam artam braja janam chatan tam chatasvasakam bhaktam archavande durasaya. It's a verse written by Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary in the 46th chapter of the 10th canto. Artaika saranam krishnam. He says, Artaika, with a great sorrow, with a hopeless heart, Saranam Krishnam, I'm taking shelter of Krishna, I offer respects to Krishna, who's Artan Braja Janam Chatan. He's the only shelter for persons who are suffering. 𝗚cie chị𝗱𝗃 𝗚cie𝗽𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃. I offer my pranams to the suffering people of Braj, who are suffering in separation from Krishna, and to 𝗚ddhava, who alleviated their suffering. So, in our last session, we heard something from the 37th verse of this chapter, which was the final verse of Krishna's message to the Braj Gopikas that 𝗚ddhava gave. And he spoke, 𝗚maya kridata ratyam vanismin braja astitaha alabdha rasa kalyanyo 𝗞𝗂𝗶𝘀 virya-chintaya. Although some gopis had to remain in the village, coward village, and so could not join the ras dance to sport with me at night in the forest, they were nonetheless fortunate. Indeed, they attained me by thinking of my potent pastimes. So now we're going to hear something, starting with text number 38, and going to, let me see, I think it's to something like text 45, the response to the gopis to Krishna's message. It's very, very beautiful. And today I wanted to speak something about how the response that the gopis gave to Krishna's message, we see the same kind of mood in Vrindavan, manifested in the Brahma Gita in this 47th chapter of the 10th canto. We see the same mood in Kurukshetra, and we see the same mood in Jagannath Puri. So I'd like to go to text number 38. Shri Shukuvacha evam priyaktamadishtam akanya brajayositaha ta utra udavam pritas tat sandesha gata smitihi. Sri Goswami said, the women of Braj were pleased to hear this message from their dearmost Krishna. His words having revived their memory, they addressed 𝗚ddhava as follows. So, in Sarta Darshani, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this verse was spoken by the gopis who were mentioned in the previous verse, who'd been trapped in their houses and weren't able to go to Krishna to join with him in the Ras Leela. And the gopis are speaking now to 𝗚ddhava, saying, 𝗚ddhava, it's true. During that night, yes, we enjoyed with Krishna. As Sukadeva Goswami here says, Sanda Shagata Smitihi, that when they heard the message of Krishna, then it revived their memory. Their memories were lost because they were so distraught, so full of sorrow and separation from Krishna, they become unmada, which is what this chapter of the Bhagavatam in particular describes. And as we've often commented, we find a kind of mirror of this chapter in the 16th chapter, the Anjalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it's described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was relishing the mood of Radha when 𝗚ddhava came with a message known as Brahma Gita. So at this point, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the gopis became satisfied with 𝗚ddhava, and now they begin to talk in a polite way with him. And the gopis, they're perhaps remembering their words to Krishna during the Ras Leela in the 29th chapter of the 10th canto, where the gopis told him, Yat patya patya suridam anuvritya anga strinam swadharma iti dharma vidatva yuktam ast evam etadupadesha padetva ishye presto bhavams tanubritam kila bandhu atma. They said, our dear Krishna, you're Dharma Vidu, you know you're expert in religion, you know Dharma. So you have advised us that the proper Strinam Swadharma, the proper Dharma for a lady, is that they should faithfully serve their husbands, their children, their other relatives. And we agree with you, we're not arguing. This is what the gopis previously told Krishna during the Ras Leela, when Krishna told him that you should go home. They said, but actually, 𝗚cie𝗽𝗻𝗂𝗃𝗃 we don't disagree with your Upadesha instruction, but 𝗚ście𝗽𝗻𝗃 actually, this service should be rendered to you. Because you're Bandhar Atma. You're the dearest soul of all embodied friends. You're their most intimate friend. You're the soul of everyone. So, Jiva Goswami, in his Laghu Vaishnava Toshini commentary on this verse from the 10th canto, for the 47th chapter, he says that the gopis, they remembered this message. When Uddhava delivered Krishna's message to them, a message which seemed to be full of gyan, that was the first message. And they also, they didn't remember their own moods in their message, which we just went over, where they were speaking to Krishna, that you're telling us that we should serve our husbands and children and other things. They were also speaking some gyan to Krishna. But in actuality, they were filled with intense love for Krishna. And so the first message that they heard from Uddhava, they were thinking, Krishna's speaking gyan to us, he shouldn't speak this message to us, that's not right. And then Uddhava repeated the message again. Because as we discussed previously, Krishna, he told Uddhava that you should go Sunday Shire, he said. Gachotavam bhajam somya. He addressed Uddhava as Somya, oh gentle Uddhava, Gachotadam brajam. You go to Braj. And Sunday Shire is plural. In other words, you speak this message and then you repeat it, and you repeat it, and you repeat it again and again. So each time he repeats it, the gopis understand another different level of it. So the first time they're thinking, this is not right. Krishna shouldn't speak like this to us. He's speaking some gyan. And the second time they heard, they remembered directly meeting him. And that the second time the message was given, and they remembered, yes, we directly met with Krishna. And then the third time the message was spoken, they understood that their eternal pastimes were like some impressions. They were meeting Krishna during the uppercut. In other words, although Krishna wasn't present, still they were meeting. They had faith in Krishna's message. And then a fourth meaning is, as they remember that they'd seen the rasa dance because they had some love for Krishna, some similar love for Krishna as a group. But then they couldn't see the rasa dance after that. So by the power of the message, then they remembered that we have to seek out Krishna. Krishna's telling us that some of the gopis couldn't come to meet me, and then they left their body and they met with me in another way. So now they remembered, oh, we have to have very intense anurag if we want to meet with Krishna. So Krishna's intention was that he was trying to tell the gopis, look, I can't come right now at this time. But getting some consolation to the message, you should understand that my promise to return is going to be maintained. And the solution is not just that I'm going to come in the distant future. That's not the only meaning of it. He says that I'm trying to give a message which gives various meanings which will produce different solutions. The same message, as we mentioned before about 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, it has different meanings. And these different meanings are going to produce different solutions in the minds of the gopis. So the final meaning of the message is that if you're very intensely desired to be with me, just like those gopis who wanted to come to the Ras Leela, but their husbands held them back, and they left their bodies and they attained me. The final meaning of this message is that there'll be some arrangement where I'm with the gopis eternally in my pastimes in Braj. And when the gopis intensely desire to see me, that'll be the result will be they'll constantly experience my spurti. And then it'll become the greatest astonishment when they meet me directly. What is that greatest astonishment? Rupa Goswami calls it 𝗠cie𝗽𝗀. 𝗠cie𝗽𝗀 is one of the 4 types of union which takes place after 𝗠duṛa-prabhas, the most intense type of separation. That most intense type of separation is when Krishna has gone to Mathura, Dwarka. And the gopis don't know if they'll ever see him again. So there's some 𝗚cie they're saying during that separation. But Krishna's indicating by this previous verse, text number 37, when he told the gopis that, don't you remember the gopis who were held back, still they attained me. They left their bodies and they attained me. So Krishna is indicating here 𝗠cie𝗽𝗀, the most astonishing type of union in the future. That indicating that just as those gopis were able to attain me in an astonishing way, even though they left their body, so in the same way you'll also attain me. So then text 39 is the beginning of the gopis' response to Uddhava's words. And as we come into Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the gopis now, they're become a little more peaceful with Uddhava. First they were very angry with him because they saw, you're the unreliable messenger of an unreliable master. And they chastise him in so many ways. But now that they're hearing Krishna's message again and again, it's touching their hearts and they're understanding it in a different way. So text 39 discusses Gopyochuhu Distyahito hata kamso Yadunam sanugogakrit Distyaptar labda sartartar Kushaste chutaduna. The gopis told Uddhava, it's very good. Distya, it's very fortunate. Ahita hata, that Kamsa, the enemy and the persecutor of the Yadu dynasty, has been killed. Sa'anuga, along with all of his followers. And it's very good that Krishna Chuta, he's living happily in the company of his well-wishing friends and relatives, whose every desire is now fulfilled. Jiva Goswami in Laghu Vaishnava Toshini says that the gopis, they became somewhat consoled by their memories. Right? We heard that in text number 38, that when Uddhava spoke Krishna's message, then at that time, Sandeshe Agata Smriti, it revived their memory. And they remembered Krishna. They remembered, actually, yes, some of the gopis, they attained Krishna even though they'd left their bodies. So Jiva Goswami explains now they're somewhat consoled by that. And so now the gopis are speaking to show that yes, it's true that while you were gone, we were experiencing your 𝗚cie during separation. And the gopis are saying, are we happy with this message or not? Well, that's a little hard to say. But the gopis say, Krishna's happiness is our happiness. 𝗚cie 𝗽𝗀 panastumam, adarshanam amahatam karotu. The gopis, Radharani, she prays that whether he rejects me and he goes to some other woman, still mat prananatas tusa eva napra. Krishna's the Lord of my life and no one else. The only thing that we want is the happiness of Krishna. And since the Yadus, they've got unlimited happiness, there's no problem for them. They have nothing that they need. Krishna previously, he was suffering because of Kamsa, but now that's finished. And by good fortune, Ahita, that enemy who made the Yadus suffer, Agakrit, he's now dead. So Krishna must be happy, and the gopis are happy. And then the next text, text number 40, discusses Kachid Gadagaja Somya Karoti Purayoshitam Pritimna Snigda Savrida Hasadare Kshanarchitaha. They addressed Uddhava, interestingly, with the same word that Krishna addressed Uddhava, the same name, in the 46th chapter, the previous chapter, which, as far as we know, the gopis didn't know that Krishna had addressed him in this way. But they apparently, because the gopis are one in heart with Krishna, they have the same vision. And they address Uddhava as Somya. Such a beautiful name. Huh? We know one Prabhupada disciple, Mataji, whose name was Somya. She used to associate with our Guru Maharaj and hear from him. So they're also addressing him as Somya, O gentle Uddhava. And this is the qualification of the messenger. We spoke about this in some previous sessions. The qualification of the preacher, the messenger, is that they have a gentle heart. Gentle heart means they're tolerant of offenses, just as Uddhava has been. Now, by saying Somya, the gopis are indirectly stating that we've been very harsh with you. But because you're Somya, because you're very gentle, now you're tolerating our harsh words. So they said, O gentle Uddhava. And they speak about Krishna, but they address Krishna as 𝗏𝗏. 𝗏𝗏 means the elder brother of Ghada. Well, who is Ghada? 𝗩𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 explains something in his purport about this. They ask, is that elder brother of Ghada? Now, the ladies of Mathura must be very, very happy. Is he giving them the pleasure that actually belongs to us? And we're supposing, he said, that 𝗚śnie 𝗏𝗃𝗃 udara 𝗚cznie, that those ladies must be worshipping him, archita, by their 𝗚cznie, by their glance. In the same way that the gopis of Vrindavan, they worship Krishna by their glance. So the name Gadagraja indicates that Krishna is the Agraja, the older brother of Ghada, who is the first son of 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, one of the sisters of Devaki. So Gadagraj is actually Krishna's cousin in that sense. But in Indian culture, the cousin is considered to be like the brother sometimes too. So Krishna is the older brother of Ghada, who's the son of 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, Devaki's sister, who was also married to Vasudeva. Vasudeva had many, many wives. Now, when the gopis are speaking like this, again, this is 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, and the gopis are saying so many things at the same time. And by addressing Krishna this way, the gopis are indicating, oh, now probably you've forgotten all about your mother, Yashoda. Probably now you're mostly thinking of yourself as a son of Devaki. And this is a subtle reason why they've addressed him as Gadagraja. Otherwise, in Vrindavan, they don't speak about that. How Krishna's the older brother of Ghada, his cousin, who's the son of 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, Devaki's sister. So the implication, that what they're implying here, is that Krishna, he no longer cares so much about the residents of Vrindavan. He's more absorbed in the residents of Mathura now. The gopis, they have some sulkiness, some man, and they're a little jealous. And the gopis, by using the words 𝗚cznie archita, that are those ladies of Mathura, they're asking Uddhava, are they worshipping Krishna by their sidelong glances? So indirectly they're indicating themselves. Because we know this is the way we worship Krishna. The gopis, again, they're so very, very subtle in how they speak. And this is the nature of an exalted Vaishnava. They'll say one thing, but they may mean another thing. Just like 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, when he used to give class sometimes, he would chastise me. But how was he chastising me? 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃 was a PhD. He had a doctor of literature. He had many, many PhD students under him. My Guru Maharaj once commented that he knew more about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and 𝗚ṛişa than anyone in the world. He's a great scholar. But he would address me many times. This Madhavananda is so learned. He's so learned. I don't know Hindi. I don't know Sanskrit. I don't know Oriya. I barely know English. And he's speaking like that way to me. He's indirectly chastising me in a very beautiful way. And I miss that chastisement from him. That was very, very special. So the gopis are speaking in a multi-level way. And they're asking Uddhava, now we worship Krishna with our glances. So now are the ladies of Mathura, they're getting Krishna's bold glances. Is Krishna worshiping them? And the gopis, they're calling out. 𝗚cie čia𝗶𝘀 Thakur says to Lord Shiva, Mahadev, Mahadev, Shiva, Shiva. That glance is meant for us. It belongs to us. Krishna's 𝗚cie𝗽𝗂𝗀. It's meant for us. It's not meant for those ladies of Mathura. That glance is meant to be worshipped by us, but it's become their worshipper. This is our great misfortune. And they're lamenting like this. So the gopis of Vrindavan, we see their mood in these verses of the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, and how they're speaking to Uddhava. Now Uddhava has finished Krishna's message to them, and now the gopis, they're responding. And they're responding in a nice, gentle way. We don't want to offend Krishna or anything. And then text 41, they go on. Katam rati visheshabhya priyascha purayoshitam nanabhyadyeta tadvakyar vibramais chanubhajitaha. That this Krishna, he's very expert in all kinds of conjugal affairs. He's a darling of the ladies who are pura yositam. Yosita means the ladies of the city. He's the darling of the city women. Obviously he's become entangled with them now that he's constantly being worshipped by their enchanting words and their gestures. So Sridhar Swami in Bhakti-deepika, he says that each one of these verses, which is being spoken to Uddhava, is being spoken by a different gopi. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says here, why are you repeating the same thing again? Uddhava says, why are you asking the same question again? You shouldn't have any doubt about this. And so then some other gopis, they speak sarcastically with concealed anger. And the gopis are saying that because Krishna knows everything about loving affairs, therefore he's become the darling of the women of Mathura. So why won't he become attached to them? He's constantly being worshipped by their words and services. So Krishna will respond to them, and he's going to be forced to render service to them also. And therefore, we village ladies, who are we? We're very, very simple persons. We don't have any rati vishesh, any special conjugal attraction that we can offer to him. We don't know how the ladies in the city are working. We don't know all these proper words and gestures and things. In other words, we don't know all this religion stuff. Because the residents of Mathura are worshipping Krishna. We don't know how to do all this. We're just very, very simple ladies. So these words that are being spoken by the Braj Gopis in this 47th chapter of the 10th canto, this is the same mood which is spoken by the gopis in Kurukshetra. 𝗚ście 𝗚𝗚𝗀 They're addressing Krishna as Nalina Nabha. You're Bhagavan, and we're offering our prayers to you. 𝗚ście 𝗚𝗚𝗀 Yogeshvarai hridivichintyamagada-bodhai. That Yogeshvarai hridivichintyam, the greatest of yogis, they're meditating on you. But who are we? We're just household ladies. We're very, very fallen. We're just village ladies, in other words. And these ladies in Mathura and later in Dwarka, they know how to satisfy you. Who are we? We're just very simple. Therefore, you've forgotten us. And so the gopis here are speaking in Kurukshetra in a very sulky way. And many, many different meanings are there. And if we understand the message here of the gopis in this 47th chapter, this Brahmaragita, the 10th canto, then we can understand something about the mood of the meeting in Kurukshetra. And we can understand something about the mood of the meeting in Ratha Yatra. It's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Sajiyat Krishna Chaitanya Sarata Grena Nataya Yena Sij Jagatam Chittam Jagannathapi Vismitaha. That may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who danced in front of the cart of Sri Jagannath, be glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. So there's a kind of competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath. During the Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath came out, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Jagannath wait. And in his Anubhashya commentary, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he describes that after giving up the company of the gopis of Braj in Vrindavan, Krishna performed pastimes in Dwarka. And then when he went to Kurukshetra with Balaram and Subhadra and the devotees and members of the Yadu dynasty from Dwarka, again he met the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Baba Duti Suvalitam. He's Krishna, but he's assuming the role of Radharani in order to understand himself, Krishna. Jagannath is Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radharani. So Mahaprabhu is leading Jagannath toward the Gundicha temple, corresponds with Radharani's leading Krishna to Vrindavan from Kurukshetra. And Jagannath Puri is considered to be like Dwarka, Prabhupada says, the place where Krishna enjoys supreme opulence. But he's being led by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan. So it's a mixture of mellows. In this 47th chapter of the 10th canto, this Brahma Gita, it's a mixture of mellows. The gopis are feeling intense separation from Krishna, but they're also feeling great ecstasy and happiness that Krishna sent this message, and Krishna's remembering them, and that Krishna is telling them that we're going to be together, and that there's nothing, indirectly saying there's nothing that can keep us separated. Even those gopis who were held back by their husbands and they wanted to go to the Ras Leela, they left their bodies, but nothing could stop them. So this is the nature of bhakti. Nothing can stop bhakti. In the Gita, Krishna describes to Arjuna that that whatever you've gotten to this, it will protect you even from the greatest type of fear. It's never lost. Nihavikramanasas, pratyavayo navidite, swapamapyasya dharmasya, trayate mahatovaya. And rather, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains in one lecture, he says, the danger experienced during an unfavorable condition produces a favorable condition for the worship of the Lord the very next moment. We can think somebody, Brinda Devi's here with us from Ukraine, and she's thinking, oh, it's very, very difficult in Ukraine right now. All my devotee friends are there and we're crying, and it's such a terrible thing. And sometimes we might even wonder why Krishna is doing this to me. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says we should see deeper than that. We should show sympathy, we should show compassion, we should show kindness on the devotees who are suffering like that. We should feel great distress and wanting to help them. But at the same time, we should understand that Krishna is controlling everything, and that Krishna's devotees are always going to be protected. And as Krishna tells the gopis through Uddhava, even those gopis who left their bodies, still they came to me. Everything was okay. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he says the danger that we experience during an unfavorable condition, that produces a favorable condition for worshiping the Lord the next moment. Tomara sevaya dukkha hoya jata seito paramasuka. Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, he says that whatever difficulties I face in my service to you, tomara sevaya dukkha hoya jata seito paramasuka, that's my greatest happiness. It's an amazing thing. We want to go out, we want to distribute prasadam, we want to do harinam, we want to help people, and all of a sudden there's a war going on, and this and those, so much difficulties. But if the devotees persevere in that situation, then they'll experience the topmost happiness. An example is the gopis of Braj. We can't imagine any more distressful, terrible situation than what the gopis of Vrindavan are going through. And Krishna's left them. But the gopis, because they don't give up worshiping Krishna, that suffering becomes actually their greatest happiness. And that's a very, very paradoxical situation, which is very, very difficult to understand. But Srila Prabhupada similarly says in one purport in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam that sometimes saintly or very religious persons has to also meet with reversals in life. He says, but such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid trying to counteract such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material anxiety. Krishna advises this in this connection. We should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. Bhakti Narottam Das Thakur, therefore, he also sings in Prem Bhakti Chandrika. The keyboard's not working, Krishna. Karmi Gyani Micha Bhakta Nahoy Betate Anurakta Vishuddha Bhajana Koroman Braja Janya Raji Rita Tahate Dubaho Chitta Ese Parama Tattvadham. He says, my dear mind, Karmi Gyani Micha Bhakta Nahoy Betate Anurakta. Don't be attached to the karmis, the gyanis, the micha bhaktas, the false devotees. Don't be anxiety about all this person's a false devotee, they're cheating, they're doing this and that, and we become so stressed out. Don't worry about it. Rather, we should absorb our mind in the activities and the customs and the people of Vrindavan. We should think about the gopis of Vrindavan and what suffering they're going through. We should think about Srimati Radharani. So the words of the gopis here in this 47th chapter, the 10th canto, now they're responding to Uddhava, these also correspond with what's being spoken at Kurukshetra and in Jagannath Puri. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami, he describes the words of Radharani at Kurukshetra, and the same words are being spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here in Jagannath Puri. Tomara charana mora braja pura gare udaye koroye jadi tabe vancha puri. Hey Krishna. The gopis are telling Uddhava, they're responding, this is very nice. That Krishna is sending us this message, but actually Krishna is just really attached to the ladies of Mathura. And Krishna, Tomara Charanamora Brajapuragai, if you come again to our home of Vrindavan, then Tabivancha Puri, then our desires will be fulfilled. This is indirectly what the gopis are telling Krishna through Uddhava here in their response to Krishna's message. And this is the same thing that the gopis are telling Krishna when they meet in Kurukshetra. This is the same thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the same feelings that Mahaprabhu was expressing before Jagannath here in Puri at Rath Yatra. Say Baba, say Krishna, say Vrindavana, Jabi Pai, Tabi Hoy, Vanchita Purana. That what happened at that time in Kurukshetra, in Vrindavan, it increased the intensity of their love. This is what's happening in the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, Krishna's not showing himself before the gopis. Krishna's sending a message of love to them. And it's making their feelings, their desires grow and grow and grow. And Radharani, she's longing, say Baba, say Krishna, say Vrindavan. I want Krishna, I want this mood of Vrindavan, I want Krishna, I want Vrindavan, I want Krishna in Vrindavan. 𝗁𝗔𝗃, I want to fulfill my desires in this way. So this is part of the purpose of these series of talks that we're giving, is to help us to try to understand the meaning of the Bhagavatam and why the Bhagavatam is so important. And the greatest mystery of the Bhagavatam is that Krishna's left Vrindavan, he's left the gopis. And then we see in this 47th chapter, the 10th canto, Krishna's message coming through Uddhava, and the gopis initially rejecting that message and becoming very angry with Krishna. And how we see that same mood in Kurukshetra, and understanding these two things of the mood of the Brahma Gita and Uddhava's message to the gopis in the meeting Kurukshetra, then we can understand Gaura Lila. Then we can understand what's going on in Jagannath Puri. So I want to stop there. It's nice, we're back in our ashram here in Puri now. It's good to be back again after so long. It's nice to see all of our friends here. Brinda Sundari from Denver, and 𝗚់ឆ 𝗽𝗂𝗓, and Ashwin Prabhu, and 𝗚់ឆ 𝗽𝗓𝗃 is asking if there was some recorded video class of Fakir Mohan Prabhu. Yes, I'm pretty positive there is.
Must be.
Yeah, it must be. I know.
Audios we have.
Audio we have some of. And there's also, I'm quite sure that some of the devotees, Indra Maharaj recorded quite a few, made a few recordings, and there must have been some videos made too. Mandala Lhasa might have some. I can write to them. If anybody wants, you just contact me later on. We can go ahead with that. Anyway, we'll go ahead and stop here. If anybody has any reflections or comments, this is the time for them. Gaura Prabhu's here. Nice to see you, Prabhu, on Zoom. Anybody else have any reflections or comments? We can go ahead. Krishna, can you have anything?
I am struck by this word Somya, that both the gopis and Krishna
use the same word
for Uddhava. First of all, I'm struck by the fact that both of them use, that the gopis are so tuned with Krishna that they use the same word. And also, in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, this word is used, Somya, and their Prabhupada translates it as pure and simple.
Acha, oh nice, that's a really good comment.
And that's
pure and simple.
Pure and simple, yes. And I just marked that word, and I really liked what you brought out from this, that the gopis use this word in the sense of gentle, because they were harsh with Uddhava. They were upset. And now they are addressing him like this to sort of apologize in a subtle way. So my other point is from this session is the subtlety of the gopis, and this kind of subtlety, which I'm sorry, but myself, gross Westerners, is just so hard to actually gain that culture in the heart. I guess
that's a beautiful comment. It's such an important thing. We see, by the way, for anybody watching here, Brinda Sundari and other devotees, I'm going to paste in a link to Fakir Mohan Prabhu, a lecture. Oops, it didn't work. Let me try again. Copy the link address. Okay. I'll paste in that comment here. Yeah, that's such an important thing. We want to develop some culture. And we have our Western culture, and sometimes we think that adopting Krishna conscious culture means that I wear tilak and a dhoti. Or I get up at a certain time of the morning, but it's so much deeper than that. It means how you as someone commented recently, you can judge someone. Someone told a friend of ours, if you're looking for a good husband, look and see how they treat older people, the elders. That's culture. That's culture in India. There's so many things we can learn from that. Let's see here, a few other comments. Brinda Sundari says the gopis are expert in overcoming any and all obstacles in serving and loving Krishna. So wonderful. She's making this point that they're determined. And what a great example that is of the gopis, that even though they leave their bodies, that still doesn't stop them from going to Krishna. We should have such determination. Okay, I'm going to paste in some other, into Gaura Prabhu's commented, there are some videos of fucking Mohan Prabhu. I'm pasting in Zurich, they made a couple of video lectures, and Anapani Radha's here. She comments, the greatest mystery of Srimad Bhagavatam, why Krishna left Vrindavan. Thank you for going so deep in your journey to answer the question why Krishna did it. Thank you. That's a nice comment. That's our purpose. Okay, so and if anybody's more, let's see, here's another one. It looks like in Zurich they they were together. If I can remember, gave class for over 10 years in Bhubaneswar, and there were some recordings, but there was no video things to my knowledge. We went together maybe once or twice or something, but I'm not aware of any. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there, unless anybody has any final things. So I want to thank everybody very much, and we hope that we're going to be back online now regularly, because we were off a little bit because we went to Vrindavan and Govardhan, and then we came back and we had a parikrama and things were a little crazy, but now we're hoping things will slow down a little bit. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha, Sukha Sindhu-bhya-cha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo, Namo Namaha, Namo Kori Vaishnavindra ki jai.